Hello everybody, this is Refresh and we are doing Explorers of Ixalan featuring the challenge decks from 2020. We'll be doing a free-for-all as per usual for Explorers of Ixalan. We have Cavalcade Charge over here, Flash of Ferocity over there, Final Adventure over there, and Allied Fires over there. We'll go ahead and get started by drawing our opening hands. Cavalcade Charge draws a Fervent Champion, a Mountain, Light Up the Stage, Castle Embereth, Scorch Spitter, and Castle Embereth. I think this is an alright aggressive start for this deck, so we'll go ahead and keep it. Flash of Ferocity draws a Brineborn Cutthroat, Sinister Sabotage, Wildborn Preserver, Island, Forest, Nightpack Ambusher, and Spectral Sailor. It's a little bit slow of a hand and light on land, but I think we can keep this on some playables here. Final Adventure draws a Smitten Swordmaster, Jungle Hollow, Midnight Reaper, Jungle Hollow, Forest, Swamp, and Temple of Malady. This is a hand without a lot of action, but because of the Temple of Malady and the fact that we have plays, we will keep this hand as well. Allied Fires draws a Temple of Epiphany, Sarkin the Masterlist, Fires of Invention, Deafening Clarion, Island, Drawn from Dreams, and Fires of Invention. I don't think we have enough lands to keep this hand, so we'll take a mulligan. Because this is multiplayer, we'll get one free mulligan. Then we have an Island, Omen of the Sea, Saheeli Sublime Artificer, Fires of Invention, Ugin the Ineffable, and Island. I wouldn't normally keep this, but I think because we have the Omens of the Sea, we can use this hand, so we will keep this one. We'll roll off to see who goes first. Cavalcade Charge rolls a 6. Flash of Ferocity rolls an 11. Final Adventure rolls an 8. Allied Fires rolls a 7. Flash of Ferocity will go first, and because this is multiplayer, we'll draw a card on the beginning of our first turn. Flash of Ferocity draws a Forest. We'll play the Island, and then we will pass the turn. Final Adventure draws a Swamp. We'll play the Temple of Malady. This is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1, and you can tap it for black and green. We'll scry. We'll take this land and put it on the bottom. And then Final Adventure will pass the turn. Allied Fires draws an Interplanar Beacon. We'll play the Island, and then we'll tap the Island to discover this tile here. It is a natural defenses. You create 2 sapling tokens, and an opponent of your choice creates 1 sapling token. We'll go ahead and give the sapling token to Cavalcade Charge. Cavalcade Charge gets a sapling. Allied Fires will play their Explorer token here, and Allied Fires will pass the turn. Cavalcade Charge draws a Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. We'll play a Mountain, and then we will tap the Mountain to cast a Fervent Champion. This is a 1/1 human knight with first strike and haste, and whenever it attacks, another target attacking knight you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Equip abilities that you activate, the target Fervent Champion costs 3 less to equip. We'll go ahead and go on the attack, and we will both attack Final Adventure. Final Adventure can't block, we'll take 2 and go down to 18. And then Cavalcade Charge will pass the turn. At the end of Cavalcade Charge's turn, Flash of Ferocity will tap the Island and cast Spectral Sailor. This is a 1/1 Spirit Pirate with Flash and Flying. And for 3 and a blue, draw a card. Then we'll untap. Flash of Ferocity draws a Forest. We'll play a Forest. Flash of Ferocity will go to combat, and we will attack Cavalcade Charge with the Spectral Sailor for 1. Cavalcade will take 1 and go to 19. And then Flash of Ferocity will pass the turn. Final Adventure will untap. They'll draw. We'll get a Swamp, and Final Adventure will play the Jungle Hollow. This is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. You can tap for black and green. We'll get a life to go back up to 19. And then Final Adventure will tap the Temple of Malady, and we'll grab this tile over here. This is Cannons to Port. It's a quest. The next time you deal combat damage to the player on your left, draw a card. And then Final Adventure will pass the turn. Allied Fires and taps. Draws, gets a Temple of Triumph. We don't have a 3-drop that we want to play, but we'd like to play the Omen of the Sea, so we're going to play another Island over here, and we will go to combat. We will attack Final Adventure with 1 sapling for 1. Final Adventure takes 1 and goes to 18. Then Allied Fires will pass the turn. Cavalcade Charge on taps. They draw a Light Up the Stage. Cavalcade Charge will play a Castle Embereth. It's a land. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. We do. Tap, add red, or 1 red tap. Creatures you control gain +1/+0 until end of turn. We'll go to combat. We will attack Final Adventure with the Fervent Champion and the Sapperling. Final Adventure can't block. They'll take 2 and go to 16. Then we'll spend 2 more mana to catch 2 Scorch Spitters. These are 1/1 elemental lizards, and when they attack, it deals 1 damage to the player or the planeswalker it's attacking. And then Cavalcade Charge will pass the turn. At the end of Cavalcade Charge's turn, Flash of Ferocity will tap 2 and they'll cast the Brineborn Cutthroat. This is a 2/1 Merfolk Pirate with Flash, and whenever you cast a spell during your opponent's turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Brineborn Cutthroat. And then we'll untap. Flash will draw an unsummon. We'll play a forest. And then Flash of Ferocity will go to combat and will attack Allied Virus with the Spectral Sailor. Allied Virus takes 1 and goes to 19. Then Flash of Ferocity will pass the turn. Final Adventure untaps. Draws an Edgewall Innkeeper. Final Adventure will play the Forest. We'll tap 1 to cast the Edgewall Innkeeper. This is a 1/1 human peasant. Whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure, draw a card. And then we will tap 2 mana, both for black, to cast this Smitten Swordmaster. This is a 2/1 human knight with lifelink, and because it has an adventure, Edgewall Innkeeper will cause us to draw a card. We draw a Black Lance Paragon. Final Adventure will pass the turn. At the end of Final Adventure's turn, Allied Fires will tap both of their islands, and we will cast Omen of the Sea. It's an enchantment with Flash. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2, then draw a card, and you can pay 2 blue and sacrifice it to scry 2 again. We'll scry 2. The Deafening Clarion looks like it'll be helpful on this board, as will the Fate of Wishes, but I think we need a little bit more in the way of lands. So we will take the Fate of Wishes and stick it on the bottom for now, and we will keep the Deafening Clarion here. We'll draw that. Then we'll untap. Allied Fires draws a Narset, Parter of Veils. We will play the Temple of Triumph. It is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, scry 1. You can tap it for red or white. And then we'll scry. We will take the Tranquil Cove and we will leave it on top because that is a white mana that we could use. And then Allied Fires will pass the turn. Cavalcade Charge untaps. They draw a Torban, Thane of Redfell. We'll play the Castle Embreth. Then we will tap 3 mana and cast Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. This is a 4 loyalty legendary Chandra, and for 0 you can put a loyalty counter on each red planeswalker you control. For 0 you can create 2 red 1/1 elemental creature tokens. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. For -2 you can cast a target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. We'll immediately use the loyalty ability to get her up to 5 loyalty, and then Cavalcade Charge will pass the turn. At the end of Cavalcade Charge's turn, Flash of Ferocity will tap a green and cast the Wildborn Preserver. This is a 2/2 elf archer with Flash and Reach. Whenever another non-human creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay X. When you do, put X +1/+1 counters on Wildborn Preserver. And because that was cast on the opponent's turn, the Brineborn Cutthroat will get a counter, and then we'll untap. Flash of Ferocity will draw a Thornwood Falls, play the Forest, mostly for the Nightpack Amateur, and then we will go to combat and we will attack Allied Fires with the Spectral Sailor. Allied Fires takes 1 and goes to 18, and then Flash of Ferocity will pass. Final Adventure untaps. They draw a Smitten Swordmaster. Final Adventure will play the Jungle Hollow. It'll enter tapped. We'll gain a life to go back up to 17. And then we'll spend 3 mana and cast the Midnight Reaper. This is a 3/2 zombie knight. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, it deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. And then Final Adventure will pass the turn. This exploration token should have came off. And then at the end of Final Adventure's turn, Allied Fires will tap both islands and will cast the Omen of the Sea again. We'll scry 2 and draw a card. We will take the Tranquil Cove and we'll put the Interplanar Beacon on the bottom. This is drawn. And then we'll untap. We draw a Swiftwater Cliffs, and Allied Fires will play the Tranquil Cove. It's a land. It enters the battlefield tapped, and whenever it enters the battlefield, you gain a life. We'll gain a life to go back up to 19. And then we'll tap 3 mana to cast Narset, Part of Veils. This is a 5 loyalty legendary Narset, and each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. For -2, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. go ahead and -2 Narset immediately to go down to 3 loyalty, and we'll look at the top 4 cards. We have all lands, so that is a whiff. We'll put them all on the bottom of the library in a random order. And then Allied Fires will pass the turn. Cavalcade Charge untaps. They draw. They get a Tin Street Dodger. Cavalcade Charge will tap 1 mana and cast as Tin Street Dodger. This is a 1/1 Goblin Rogue with haste, and for red, it can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with Defender. Go ahead and tap 1 mana to make the Tin Street Dodger get its ability, and we will attack Allied Fires with the Tin Street Dodger. Allied Fires can't block. We'll take 1 and go to 18. And then Cavalcade Charge will tap the last Castle Embereth and cast Light of the Stage. This is a sorcery for Spectacle Red, and you can exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. We'll exile the top 2 cards. We have a Mountain and a Bone Crusher Giant. We'll go ahead and play the Mountain right now. And then Cavalcade Charge will use the Chandra ability to uptick 1 more time to go up to 6. And then Cavalcade Charge will pass the turn. At the end of Cavalcade Charge's turn, Flash of Ferocity will tap out and will cast the Nightpack Ambusher. This is a 4/4 wolf with flash. Other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't cast a spell this turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Because that's on the other turn, the Brineborn Cutthroat will get a counter. We can't pay any money for the Wildborn Preserver, so we'll stop there. Then we'll untap. Flash of Ferocity will draw a Thornwood Falls. We'll play a Thornwood Falls. It's a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you gain a life, and you can tap it for green or blue. We gain 1 life to go up to 21. We'll go to combat, and we will attack Cavalcade Charge with the Spectral Sailor. Cavalcade Charge takes 1 and goes to 18. And then Cavalcade Charge will pass the turn. Final Adventure untaps. They draw a Foulmire Knight. Final Adventure will play a black mana, and then Final Adventure will spend 1 mana to explore this tile. We get a quest, Plunder the Plunderers. The next time combat damage dealt to you, create 2 treasure tokens. We'll go ahead and put our scout counter on this one here. Because of the Narset, we can't actually draw a card on this turn, and so the Final Adventure is going to pass the turn. Allied Fires and taps. Draws, they get a Narset Parter of Veils. We'll play the Swiftwater Cliffs. This is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. You can tap it for blue and red. You gain a life to go back up to 19. Then we will spend 4 mana to cast Fires of Invention. This is an enchantment. You can cast spells only during your turn, and you can cast no more than 2 spells each turn. You may cast spells with converted mana less than or equal to the number of lands that you control without paying their mana costs. And now we can cast 1 more spell on this turn. So we will minus Narset to look at the top 4 cards. And we get a Narset Parter of Veils. We'll put that in our hand. We'll shuffle and put these lands on the bottom. And then we'll go to combat, and we will attack Cavalcade Charge with the Saproling tokens. Cavalcade Charge will trade at 1 Saproling for another Saproling, and will first strike block the Fervent Champion. The Saproling will die, and the Fervent Champion will beat the other Saproling in combat. The 2 Saprolings die. And then for the second spell, Allied Fires will cast Deafening Clarion. This is a sorcery. It says choose 1 or both. It deals 3 damage to each creature. Creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. We'll choose the 3 damage mode. This will kill all of Cavalcade Charge's creatures. In response, Flash of Ferocity will tap the island and unsummon their Wildborn Preserver. This will come back into our hand. The Brineborn Cutthroat will get a counter to go up to a 5/4, and the Spectral Sailor will die. All of Final Adventure's creatures die, and because 3 non-token creatures die, Final Adventure will take 3 damage and draw 3 cards, going down to 13. And they'll draw a Lucky Clover, a Knight of the Ebon Legion, and a Lovestruck Beast. And then Allied Fires will pass the turn. Cavalcade Charge untaps. They draw a Cavalcade of Calamity. Cavalcade Charge will tap 3 mana and cast the Bone Crusher Giant from exile. This is a 4/3 giant, and whenever it becomes a target of a spell, Bone Crusher Giant deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. And then we will use the 0 ability for Chandra Acolyte of Flame to create 2 elemental creatures, and we will attack Allied Fires with the elemental creatures. Allied Fires will take 2 and go to 17. And then the turn will end, the elementals will be sacrificed, and Cavalcade Charge will be done. At the end of Cavalcade Charge's turn, Flash of Ferocity will tap 2 and will cast the Wild Port Preserver again. As it enters the battlefield, the Brineborn Cutthroat will get another counter, and then Flash of Ferocity will untap. They draw a Quench. Flash of Ferocity will play another throw. We'll spend 1 green mana to cast the Heart's Desire. It is the adventure on Lovestruck Beast. It says sorcery, create a 1/1 human creature token. We'll get 2 of them. And then we'll spend 3 more mana to cast the Lovestruck Beast. This is a 5/5 Beast Noble, and it can't attack unless you control a 1/1 creature. And then Final Adventure will pass the turn. Allied Fires and taps. They draw. It is an Interplanar Beacon. We will play the Interplanar Beacon. It is a land. Whenever you cast a Planeswalker spell, you gain 1 life. You can tap it to add colorless, or pay 1 and tap it to add 2 mana of different colors. Spend this mana only to cast Planeswalker spells. We are at 6 mana. We will spend 3 mana to cast Narset Parter of Veils. This little legend rule will replace the old Narset Parter of Veils. We'll immediately -2 Narset to look at the top 4 cards. And we will take the Kazmina Enigmatic Mentor and put it in our hand. We'll shuffle the rest and stick it on the bottom. We will cast Ugin the Ineffable using the Fires of Invention ability. It's a 4 loyalty legendary planeswalker Ugin. Colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. For +1, you can exile the top card of your library face down and look at it. Create a 2/2 colorless spirit creature token. And when that token leaves the battlefield, put the exiled card into your hand, and for -3, destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors. We will exile a Deafening Clarion, and it will be a 2/2 creature. That will make Ugin a 5/5, and then Allied Fires will pass the turn. Cavalcade Charge untaps. They draw a Mountain. We'll play the Mountain. Cavalcade Charge will spend 2 mana to cast Cavalcade of Calamity. This is an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control with power 1 or less attacks, Cavalcade of Calamity deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that creature is attacking. We will 0 the Chandra to get 2 elementals, and we will go to combat. We will attack Ugin with the 2 elementals. The Cavalcade of Calamity will trigger. They'll deal 2 damage to Ugin to take him down to 3. And then we will block 1 of the elementals with the Spirit, and Ugin will take 1 to go down to 2. And then we will spend 1 more mana to look at this tile over here. It is a Broadside Assault. Deal 2 damage to each opponent. Flash takes 2 and goes to 20. Final Adventure takes 2 and goes to 11. Allied Fires takes 2 and goes to 9. That turns on Spectacle, so we'll tap the Castle Embereth and cast another Light Up the Stage. We'll exile these 2. We have a Fervent Champion and a Rimrock Knight. Go ahead and tap 1 more to cast the Fervent Champion. And then we will pass the turn. The Elementals will self-sacrifice. Flash of Ferocity will untap. Draw. We get an island. We'll play the island. Flash of Ferocity will go to combat, and we will attack Ugin with the Wildpack Ambusher and Narset with the Wolf. Allied Fires will chump the Wolf that's attacking Narset. This will kill the Spirit, and the Deafening Clarion will go back into her hand. The Ugin will die. And then Flash of Ferocity will pass the turn. Final Adventure untaps. They draw a Knight of the Ebon Legion. Final Adventure will play a Swamp. We'll go to combat, and we will swing the Lovestruck Beast at Narset and 1 of the humans at Allied Fires. Narset dies, and Allied Fires takes 1 and goes to 8. This completes the Cannons to Port quest. We'll draw a card from that. It is Order of Midnight. We'll spend 2 mana to cast the Order of Midnight's Adventure, which is Alter Fate, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. We'll go ahead and return the Midnight Reaper. Then we'll do this again to return the Edgewall Innkeeper. We'll spend 3 mana to cast the Midnight Reaper again. And Final Adventure will pass the turn. At the end of Final Adventure's turn, Allied Fires will tap all 3 mana and use the ability of the Omen of the Sea to sacrifice it and scry 2. We'll keep Drawn from Dreams, but we'll put Kenrith at the bottom. We'll untap, draw. We have Drawn from Dreams. For the first spell we'll cast Drawn from Dreams. It's sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. In response to Drawn from Dreams, Flash of Ferocity will tap 3 mana and cast Sinister Sabotage. It's an instant counter target spell in Surveil 1. Surveil, we look at the Temple of Mystery and we'll put it in the graveyard. Allied Fires will not get a card draw. To preserve itself, Allied Fires is going to spend 3 mana, white, red, and colorless to cast Deafening Clarion again. This will kill all of Cavalcade Charge's creatures. This will only kill the Wolf token. This will kill both humans and the Midnight Reaper. The Midnight Reaper will hit Final Adventure for 1, taking them down to 10, and draw them a card, which is Order of Midnight. And Allied Fires will pass the turn. Cavalcade Charge will untap. Draw, we'll get a Rimrock Knight. We'll spend 4 mana to cast Torbrand, Thane of Redfell. This is a 2/4 legendary dwarf normal. If a red source you control will deal damage to an opponent or a permanent that opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. Go ahead and spend 1 more to take a look at this tile. This is Study the 9 Rivers. The next time you draw a card, instead look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. We will 0 Chandra to create 2 elementals. We cannot fully kill off our opponent because Flash of Ferocity is so strong, but we can do a huge amount of damage with each swing. So we want to try to get Flash to commit to killing off the opponents. So in order to keep our opponent off kilter, we actually have to swing both elementals at Flash of Ferocity. That'll deal 6 damage from Cavalcade of Calamity and Torbrand, and then each of these will be 3 power. They'll be blocked by the 2 creatures, and these 2 will die. Flash takes 6 and goes to 14. Then Cavalcade will pass the turn. Flash of Ferocity will untap. We'll draw. We have a Temple of Mystery. We will play that as a land enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, scribe 1. We will take the Sinister Sabotage, and I guess we can leave that there. We'll spend 1 mana to take this tile. This is from the Mist. Put a permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. We don't have it, so that does nothing. And then we'll put our scouting token on this 3 here, and Flash of Ferocity will pass the turn. We'll get a Wolf creature token. Final Adventure untaps, draws, gets a Lucky Clover. Final Adventure will play a forest. We'll tap the forest to play an Edgewall Innkeeper. And then we will spend 1 black mana to cast a Foulmire Knight. It's a 1/1 zombie knight with Death Touch. We'll draw. We get an Order of Midnight. We'll spend 2 more mana to cast an Order of Midnight from exile. It's a 2/2 human knight with flying and it can't block. Draw. We get a Murderous Rider. And I think we're going to hold there. We can attack with a Lovestruck Beast. Doing so into any of our opponents does not seem constructive, considering that we're at such a low life total. Oh, this should have fallen off. So we're going to spend 1 mana to take a look at this card here. And it is too much to carry. You create 2 treasure tokens, and an opponent of your choice creates 1 treasure token. Here's 2 treasures, and we'll give Allied Fires the other treasure. Allied Fires gets a treasure. And then, since we have more mana, we'll put our scouting token over here, and we will spend 2 more mana, sacrificing the treasures, to cast another Lucky Clover, and then Final Adventure will pass the turn. At the end of the turn, Allied Fires will spend all of the mana and sacrifice yet another Omen of the Sea to scry 2. These will not save us, so we'll stick them on the bottom. And then we'll untap. We'll draw. We got a Narset, Part of Veils. I think we're really on the draw board wipe plan. So we will use our Fire's Invention to cast Narset, Part of Veils. We'll immediately minus Narset to look at 4. Hoping for board wipe. We did find a time wipe. And then we will cast Time Wipe. It's sorcery. Return a creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures. We don't have a creature, but we will destroy all creatures. This will destroy Torbran. Flash of Ferocity doesn't have the ability to quench this, so this will destroy all of Flash's creatures. Final Adventure will lose all of their creatures. And then Allied Fires will pass the turn. Cavalcade untaps. They'll use the Study of the Nine Rivers to look at the top 4 cards. And we will take the Embercleave and put it into our hand. We'll use Chandra's ability to generate 2 elementals. We'll go to combat. We will swing each elemental at both Allied Fires and Final Adventure. Cavalcade of Calamity will trigger. Final Adventure takes 1 and goes to 9. Allied Fires takes 1 and goes to 7. Then we'll spend 2 mana to cast Rimrock Knight's ability Boulder Rush, targeting each elemental. It is an instant. Target creature you control gains +2/+0 until end of turn, making them each 3 1s. So Final Adventure will take 3 damage and go down to 6. Because of that, that'll trigger Plunder the Plunderers and we'll get 2 treasures. Allied Fires will take 3 and go to 4. And then Cavalcade of Calamity will pass the turn. The 2 elementals will self-sacrifice. Flash of Ferocity will untap. They'll draw. They get a Sinister Sabotage. And it's a little too late and they'll pass the turn. Final Adventure will untap. They'll draw. They get a Black Lance Paragon. Final Adventure will use their Order of Midnight's ability to alter fate. We'll get back the Edgewall Innkeeper. The Lucky Clover triggers 2 more times. We'll also get back the Smitten Swordmaster and the Lovestruck Beast. We'll spend 1 mana to use the Lovestruck Beast's ability to create 3 humans. We'll spend 1 more green mana to cast the Edgewall Innkeeper again. We'll spend 3 more mana to cast Lovestruck Beast. Oh, we can't draw an extra card because of Narset, but we'll have the Lovestruck Beast. And we're going to hold up the rest of the mana. This falls off. This should also fell off. And then we have our defenses up, so we will pass turn. And we're forced to discard a card. So we will discard a Smitten Swordmaster. And then Final Adventure will pass the turn. Allied Fires draws, gets a Temple of Enlightenment. We'll play the Temple. It is a land that enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1. You can tap it to add white or blue. Go ahead and take a look at the Temple of Epiphany and stick that on the bottom. We'll use Narset's ability to go down to 1, looking at the top 4 cards here. And we will take the Kasmina. We'll put the rest on the bottom. For our first spell that we cast this turn, we will cast Narset. So Legend will just Narset out. We'll immediately -2 Narset again to go down to 3. We will look at the top 4 cards. Kind of need to get rid of Chandra because that can kill us. So we will take Vanishing Light and we'll put the rest on the bottom. But before we do, I think we need to find a solution that's a little better than what we have right now. We'll spend 3 mana to look at that 3. This is Placate the Raptors. Each opponent sacrifices a creature, and we will put our scout tile on this 3. Final Adventure is fine, sacrificing a human. And then it looks like death is going to come at us from every single direction. So we will, for our second spell, cast Kasmina, Enigmatic Mentor. It is a 5 loyalty Kasmina Planeswalker spell. As your opponent's cast a targeted creature or Planeswalker you control, costs 2 more to cast. And for -2, create a 2/2 blue wizard creature token, then draw a card, then discard a card. We will immediately -2 Kasmina to go to 3, and we will create a wizard. And then we will draw a card, which is a Sarkhan the Masterless, and we will discard the Interplanar Bacon. And we're probably going to lose this one, but this is where we are. Allied Fires will pass the turn. Cavalcade untaps. Draws. We'll get a Runaway Steamkin. We will spend 2 mana to cast the Runaway Steamkin. It's a 1/1 elemental whenever you cast a red spell. If Runaway Steamkin has fewer than 3 +1/+1 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Remove 3 +1/+1 counters from Runaway Steamkin to add 3 red mana. Go ahead and spend 2 mana already to cast a Rimrock Knight from Exile. It's a 3/1 Dwarf Knight and it can't block. This will put a counter on Runaway Steamkin. And then we'll spend 1 to take a look at this tile over here. It says, Sails Unfurled. The next creature that enters the battlefield under your control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it and gains haste until end of turn. We'll put our scout token on that 3. And then we will 0 Chandra Acolyte of Flame to get 2 elementals. We'll go to combat and we'll send both of the elementals at Flash of Ferocity. Flash can't do anything, they'll take 4 and go to 10. And then Cavalcade will pass the turn, sacrificing the elementals. Flash will draw, they get an island. We will play the island, and we'll tap the island immediately to take a look at this tile over here. It says, Plunder the Plunderers. The next time combat damage is dealt to you, create 2 treasure tokens. We'll put our scout token on this 3 over here, and we will pass the turn. Final Adventure will untap. They draw a Smitten Swordmaster. We will spend 2 mana to cast both Knights of the Ebon Legion. These are 1/2 Vampire Knights. For 2 and a black, it gets +3/+3 and Death Touch until end of turn. At the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Knight of the Ebon Legion. We'll spend 1 mana to cast Smitten Swordmaster's Sorcery. You gain X life and each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of knights you control. We'll gain 2 life to go up to 8. Allied Fires goes down to 2. Cavalcade goes down to 16. Flash goes down to 8. Then we will spend 2 more mana to cast the Smitten Swordmaster from exile. The Edgewall Innkeeper can't draw a card because of Narset, but that increases the number of knights that we have again. And then we will spend another black mana to cast another Curry Favor. And so everybody will lose 3 and we'll gain 3, taking us back up to 11. Allied Fires dies. Cavalcade Charge goes to 13. Flash of Ferocity goes to 5. And then we'll go to combat. We'll attack Flash of Ferocity with the Lovestruck Beast. Flash of Ferocity will die. And then we will spend 2 more mana to cast the Smitten Swordmaster from exile. This time with Narset gone, the Edgewall Innkeeper will trigger and will draw. Actually, these were tripled, and so the first one should have done another 4, and the second one should have done another 6, so we'd actually be up to 21 right now. The Cavalcade Charge will be down to 3, and I think if Flash of Ferocity had thought that through just a little bit more, they would have used their counterspell on the Curry Favor. And then at the end of the turn, because of the life loss, the Knights of Ebon Legion will each get a counter, and then Final Adventure will pass the turn. Cavalcade will untap. They'll draw. They get a Tin Street Dodger. Don't think that we can win this, so we'll just be as aggressive as we can. We will spend 2 mana to cast the Rimrock Knight. That'll trigger Sails Unfurled. It'll enter with a +1/+1 counter and haste, making it a 4/2 with haste. We'll spend 1 mana to cast the Tin Street Dodger. This will add 2 more mana to the Runaway Steamkin. We will 0 the Chandra Acolyte of Flame to get 2 more. And then we will go to combat and we will attack Final Adventure with everything. We'll tap 1 mana to make it so that the Tin Street Dodger can't be blocked. This will deal 3 damage off the 1/1s and the Cavalcade of Calamity. And that'll take Final Adventure down to 18. Final Adventure is not really threatened by anything, but we will put a human in front of the 3/1. We will put a Smitten Swordmaster in front of the 4/2. I think we can let the rest hit us. These 2 will trade. The human will die. The Smitten Swordmaster will die. Cavalcade Charge will pull the mana off the Runaway Steamkin to cast Embercleave. This is a legendary equipment with flash and costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, you attach a target creature control, and the equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has double strike and trample. We'll put it on the Rimrock Knight, so it'll strike the Lifelinker immediately and kill it, and then we'll do an additional 12, and the Rimrock Knight will trade 13. We'll do 13 damage to Final Adventure. Final Adventure will go all the way down to 5. We won't gain anything from the lifelink because of first strike. And then for good measure, we'll use the Castle Embrath to take a look at this tile. It is Valuable Recon. Create a treasure token. Look at any face down tile. We get a treasure. We'll look at the tile that we had previously reserved. And it's Savage Stirring. Until your next turn, at the beginning of combat, on each player's turn, the player may choose a creature until end of the turn. That creature gets +3/+3 and trample and can't attack you. And then Cavalcade will pass the turn. The elemental self-sacrifice. Final adventure at the end of the turn will sacrifice both treasures to cast a Black Lance Paragon. This is a 3/1 human knight with flash, and when it enters the battlefield, target knight gains death touch and lifelink until end of turn. That won't matter, but we'll choose one of the knights of Ebon Legion. And then we'll untap. We'll draw. We get an Edgewell Innkeeper. We will play a forest. And I think we just win, right? So what we'll do is we will spend 2 mana to cast the Order of Midnight's Ultra Fate ability. We'll go grab the 2 Smitten Sword Masters from here, as well as another Order of Midnight. And we'll put these back into the graveyard. We'll go ahead and cast 1 Curry Favor from the Smitten Sword Master. It will multiply 3 times because of the Lucky Clovers. So we have 2 knights on the battlefield, and that will multiply times 3. And so that is 6 life gained and 6 life lost will go up to 11. And Cavalcade Charge will lose 6 and perish. And that concludes our Explorers of Ixalan battle with these challenger decks. Let me know what your thoughts were about the game in the comments below. I know that I missed some rules here and there and some triggers and all that, and I'll try to point that out if I can during the course of the video. But if you had any other clarifications that I should note for future games, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can hit subscribe. This is Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.